Thank you, and it's my pleasure to be a part of this conference, and I could also see some of the non personalities from Bangladesh to and all of that. So, yeah, and I didn't expect to speak as the first speaker, but then yes. Yeah, we as an organization has been working on young people sustainable development over past 10 years in the country as well as in many part of the world. As an organization, we have established our organization in 28 different countries by now. And within Sri Lanka, we have about 12 to 15,000 young volunteers working on different development sector activities, including sustainable development goals and human rights related activities. So, specifically speaking about sustainable development and then COVID and how we have actually designed to face post-COVID situation, it has actually been a challenge for us. But at the same time, COVID actually opened eyes of many leaders, volunteers, including us, and government and private sector individuals to actually rethink how we have been actually operating our activities on the ground. Because COVID has actually has impacted to everyone, regardless of their status, rich to poor, and all of that. That also gave us a lesson. It also impacted health to education to economy to all of that. Not even like 2007 and 9, there was a economic, I think, global financial crisis happened globally, something a crisis like this, but it has never impacted all these areas. But today, in current context, when it's come to health, when it's come to education, when it's come to income, economy, it has impacted to everything. So that is where we as young people should rethink how we should be actually operating our activities and making an impact to our societies, communities, and its people. And if you even look at SDGs, it's been 5 years, and many of us actually do not know what SDGs are when it's come to grassroots communities. And of course, if you look at public to private sectors, especially in Sri Lanka, and of course, when I was working with some of the other countries, situation was the same. So it was always the challenge again to make many people realize what are SDGs and let them know. But then after 5 years, we got into this situation where we all of us had to change the strategies of promoting SDGs and getting this implemented and achieved. And specifically speaking, when it's come to some of the goals, like goal number 1, like no hunger, even education. I mean, specifically speaking about the zero hunger, uh, COVID actually exposed our weaknesses in global food supply chain, and especially when it's come to islands and all of that, it truly showed us the weaknesses in the food supply chain and all of that. So this is roughly about what exactly and how exactly COVID has showed us as a lesson. So when it comes to my contest in Sri Lanka, during COVID, we all of us had to take a moment and think how we could move forward. So when it's come to voluntary organization, of course, volunteers are so enthusiastic enough to come up with innovation. So we mobilize our young people to take actions and think differently on how we can make an impact virtually. I think this is the highest time that we actually use online platforms to mobilize people for to create impact. And all this time, sometimes we had to travel to different districts and even countries, and it was a challenge even to find out our time to come up with this type of solution. But then COVID opened up our eyes to, okay, it's not about always be physically present. You could actually use best out of all these technologies to create impact. So we actually used our tech platforms, digital platforms to mobilize young people. And also we initiated a few projects during the COVID time. One of the key project was to actually help people who do not have resources during the time when it's come to food and other financial resources. Out of that, one of the key project we initiated was we realized that people with disabilities did not actually have resources even provided by the government. When it's come to the deaf community in Sri Lanka, they did not actually have opportunities to communicate and receive information and access to all the information that the government and the other NGOs are actually sharing. So we were able to initiate a project to help over 500 individual part of differently able community to get our support and all of that. And that's one of the things that we have initiated. And the secondly, Sri Lankan, many young people, especially young professional and young people come from grassroots community, got a greater visibility for their innovations and new strategies. So during the COVID time, we noticed that many people have developing their innovations to face for a new normal post-COVID situation, looking at various industries when it's come to health, when it's come to agriculture. Ordinary people, young people who has not been actually exposed, have actually developed innovative ideas, products, and even strategies, and present they shared on social media and some of the media stations, so that we so many young people have become entrepreneurs and social entrepreneurs during this COVID time. So one of the things that we did as an organization, we decided actually open up platforms and spaces for these type of young people to grab COVID as an opportunity and actually keep their momentum and keep their trend and keep their visibility for the government and private sectors to do their innovation and get their innovation funded and get it implemented. So that is also one of the things that we have noticed within the Sri Lankan contest, and one of the things that we actually did as an organization. Luckily enough, Sri Lankan government actually faced the COVID situation very well, and we had about 11 death, and we had we have 2,300 to 500 COVID cases currently. And very recently, couple of days back, we also had an election in Sri Lanka, and the government got a supreme majority in the parliament. And even during the election, there were no COVID situation or corona situation, even though some of us actually expected things might go wrong. So that's also one of the interesting fact for Sri Lanka. Being a country in South Asia as a little island, we faced the situation very well, and military, health sector, and government sector started a strategy to trace the individual when they find a COVID person. So that was the strategy. So whenever they find a COVID person, they immediately use their intelligence services and all of that, and they started tracing how many people that person moved and all of that, and they tried to put them into a quarantine centers and tried to handle it. And as a result of that, many investors who was looking at investing and people who were actually part of the tourism sector actually approached the many public authorities, government authorities, and some of the private sectors to look for opportunities in Sri Lanka. So that is something, since I'm also a bit connected with a few authorities, national level, I just wanted to share that as an information. So that has actually opened up young people in Sri Lanka to come up with innovation and get supported by local and international authorities. So that is also something new that new came up during and the during for COVID situation of, and I would say now in Sri Lanka a bit post COVID. So in overall, I still think that we really need to think different in our approaches. Even very recently, I participated a conference in migration and youth and job opportunities. Before COVID, specifically in South Asian context, young people wanted to go to another country, get their degree or master's done, and sometimes they work there or they want to look for better opportunities. And of course, some of them would come back to their own countries because they would not fit into that nature. But COVID actually made something again realized to young people. They really do not have to migrate. If they and in current context, of course, you could have degrees to diplomas and masters from well-reputed global international universities. Uh, but it was a question whether I should go to another country or a developed country and do my job. But now COVID actually made people realize you really do not have to travel to another country. You could actually serve to multinational companies living in your country, living with your family and friend and colleagues, still serve to another country. And one of the key example that you could look at it, work from home concept. So it was new even for Sri Lanka, even though many large multinational companies and CEOs have been actually speaking about digitalizing the private sector, letting people work from home, give them more privacy and human-centric workforce and all of that. But we never experience how that is going to be. So the COVID brought an opportunity for us to actually realize how that is going to be. So in Sri Lankan companies, many multinational companies have started many young people to work from home and work from co-working spaces with their own timing, but target and result oriented manner. That is also a future. We could forecast that as when it comes to the global context, uh, COVID has also opened up many opportunities for young people coming from developing countries to do the same practice. And I also noticed that many INGOs and also United Nations and some of the companies like Google, Facebook have also started the same, so that you could start working for a multinational companies from home. So the point that I was trying to bring was starting from education, migration, jobs, and innovation, entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship, and SDGs too. Things have changed. It's not like other crises and things have changed, but also not just changed, it has given an opportunity from rich to poor, multinational to small medium companies to come up with their own strategy and position within their space. Why space? This COVID situation was never scripted when it's come to the government, public sector, and the private sector, globally, regionally, and even when it's come to the local context. So that once the COVID came into place, with all these crises, all these sadnesses, it actually created a greater space for multinational to small medium companies to rethink and fit themselves into that space and grab that opportunity and create a new way forward for them. So I think when it's come to organizations like us and youth-led organizations to all these young entrepreneurs, uh, it is an opportunity to design how we could actually design uh, the future we want. Just to finish my thoughts, I would also like to say, I'm just talking all the positive side because that is where we could build up things for way forward. And the United Nations even declared 2020 as the decade of action. So they started it. and but sadly COVID did not let United Nations to drive what they have actually planned. But COVID opened a new space and new future and new way forward for us to actually decide the decade of action, how we should be acting to end poverty. What have been doing was correct, or should we actually change in approaching what we really need to do? So this situation open up that space for us. And when it's come to I one of the things that I greatly like, this COVID shock for many sectors open up the visibility and the voices for entrepreneurs and innovative individuals to come up. So this is also an opportunity for them to actually position who they are and make an impact. So I think so it's decade of action, and this COVID situation open up and showed us and pushed us the way we should be thinking. And I think it's time for us to think different and create new opportunities. And also, this is also the time where we realize we all are same. We are truly a global citizen, and we are globalized people from India to in like South Asia to Europe to Middle East to Caribbean to all the Pacific islands to I personally have been speaking to different conferences like this, representing different initiatives and addressing different communities. And today we speak like this. And many organizations, many young people have started discussing about common shared opportunities and strategies for the countries, for the region, and for the world. I think that is also a very good sign for us to think global. And it has also, this situation has also made us realistic, and that is real and that is possible. So, with that note, I would like to end my thoughts on what we have been doing and also what we should be thinking and how we are actually have been planning to do, and would like to answer any question during the Q&A time, and also would like to listen to thoughts from other my colleagues as well. Thank you, thank you, thank you, organizers.